Welcome back to the channel and welcome to this video. This is going to be kind of a special video. We're out here at Staten Island Airfield to kind of celebrate my FPV anniversary. This is going to be the first year, or the end of the first year that I've been flying FPV, and today I want to start off by sharing a quick little FPV edit. Everything in this video is unstabilized from a DJI Action 2. This is really kind of benchmarking where I've gotten to as a pilot in the past year, and without further ado, let's get into the flying footage.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way to win it life. I never miss, that's fact, taking big swings, bitch, hand me the bat, put me in the ring, you'll go out in a bag, cause I sing what I mean and I bring it to the mad light. Ain't got time to kill, I got time to feel, I took the red pill, I know life's short so I wanna live real, but how's it supposed to feel? How's it supposed to feel? How's it supposed to feel? They wanna say my name, but they holding back. They wanna say they hate, but they know it's cap. I ain't play no games, I just do that's fact. And I don't feel no shame, it's a mood you lack. I go crazy, nah bitch I ain't lazy. Track after track, I work on the shit daily. Pass me the jack, right as fuel, got me hazy. About to unpack all these things I've been chasing. I've got visions in my head, like memories after death. To be a legend instead of something you can forget. I'm living up every breath, I'd rather lead than be led. I'll fill the seats as I spread with every word that I've said. How's it supposed to feel? How's it supposed to feel?
What'd you think of the video? I'm pretty proud of that edit. The flying was very fun, it was very much in the flow and zone, and it just felt really, really good. Had a couple of crashes, but that is FPV for you. And that right there is the power loop gap for reference, kind of right over in that back corner of the field. But with that said, I want to dive into what I've learned over the past year. I've been flying pretty consistently throughout the year, even during the winter. I do kind of switch over to flying whoops using analog gear, so it's a little different, but it keeps your fingers fresh and all those sensory memories, all of those like muscle memories, tight and clean. And I feel like that is probably the biggest lesson I've learned in the past year, that after even a short break, like 2 weeks or so without touching a controller and playing with the or flying, you do kind of atrophy a little bit in your skill. I assume the better you get, the more that either decreases or increases. I'm actually not sure yet. I'll tell you next year. But that's a big lesson, is when you first come back after a little bit of a break, generally a good idea, start slow, get a good warm-up pack, get everything running, get your brain kind of recalibrated to how it is to fly. Yeah. The other thing that I've really learned is check everything before you fly. The number of times I've put props on backwards, everybody does it. Don't feel ashamed when you do it. You will do it. It's a little embarrassing when your quad does the wah and then shuts off because it runs away. Again, it happens to everybody, but it's a lesson I had to learn. Also, make sure your bolts are tight. Before you go out for a day of flying, go over your quad, check that all the bolts are tight, make sure everything looks like it's functioning, clean, no cracks in your frame. It's always better to take care of maintenance or other items before you go out and fly, for obvious reasons, because you want to get out to the field and then you want to get up and start ripping. It really sucks going to a flying field and having to sit there and repair your quad. Absolutely done it. It happens to everybody. It's something that I learned several times before it really stuck, but it's always a good idea. Check your quad before you go out and fly. The next lesson is going to be a little weird because it's almost a product recommendation. When you're looking for your first radio, make sure you buy something A, with a good expansion bay, and B, that's good for your specific application. What do I mean by that? The first radio I bought was an X9 Lite from Free Sky. I originally was flying a lot of whoops. I was flying a lot of stuff using the RXSR receiver, and I figured that's probably the best way to go. I should just jump into a Free Sky radio. And very quickly I learned that the Free Sky radio is a great radio if you do a bunch of different hobbies, but for FPV specifically, there are a lot better radios for that application. Some include like the TBS Mambo, TBS Tango, the Radio Master TX 16S, and now the Radio Master Zorro, or even the DJI controller, depending on what you're flying. I would recommend, if you're getting into the hobby and you're buying a remote, make sure you understand what you are going to be flying. If you're going to be flying some collective pitch helicopters, maybe a plane, and some mini quads, you want to find a remote that kind of covers all of those bases. Me personally, if I was going to recommend a remote for somebody getting into the hobby and just flying quads, that TX16S, perfect radio. Radio Master Zorro, I think, is even better radio, especially if you're comfortable with those gamepad style controllers. And if you're a thumb flyer instead of a pinch or hybrid pinch, I think the Zorro is actually a pretty good radio to go with. It's not crazy expensive, super durable. The only downside is it has not so decent battery life, but I'll get into that when I actually review it eventually. Either way, those are the remotes I would look to as a new pilot, and even one looking to go into a simulator. That is lesson, I guess, number 4 at this point. The biggest lesson I learned, and this was right out of the gate, is time in that simulator is so important. And I mentioned this in the first video I ever did on FPV, that flying a simulator helped me out. Now I see how much that really was kind of crucial to me transitioning from angle mode, or even from not flying to angle mode to acro mode. Flying in the sim gave me stick time. I didn't have to walk across the field to go pick up my quad every time. I wasn't breaking props or arms or anything else. It allowed me to bash, learn, try kind of crazy out of the box tricks that no human should ever try, because it's just, I guess, dumb at some level. But that simulator time was invaluable. And so if you're getting into the hobby now, get a sim, Liftoff, Veloci Drone. Those are my 2 personal favorites. That's where I would start. Joshua Bardwell has a great video where he goes through all the simulators. If you want to get into FPV, grab a sim, fly there, get a radio. And again, don't worry about the video systems, don't worry about the quads. All of that comes later. Which brings me to number 5. The 5th lesson I really learned was that the video systems are A, complicated, B, you end up getting locked into an ecosystem. Regardless of what that ecosystem is, there's pluses and minuses. It's all a little frustrating. That's why I wouldn't worry about that as soon as, I would basically put that off as long as you can, because goggles are kind of the other big purchase in FPV. They range from like $150 for a decent set of goggles, all the way up into the $500, $600, $700 range, depending on what goggle, what module, all the rest of that stuff. This is why, for me, my recommendation will always be get a sim, learn to fly there, get a radio, start at that kind of basic level, and then you'll really A, figure out if you like it or not, and B, you'll feel more comfortable, and you'll actually kind of be involved with the community at this point, and you'll figure out maybe what your friends or local people in the area are flying, so you can do kind of something the same. The reason why that is the reason why that may be important to some people is most of the goggles have a spectator mode. If you're flying analog, you basically just tune into the same channel, you get the same video feed. If you're flying DJI, there's a spectator channel. I don't have personal experience with the HD0 system. I assume it's probably pretty similar because I saw at one of the races where they were using the HD0 system, people were tuning in on their own goggles in the stadium, but that is why I would kind of put off the goggle purchase to a little bit later, because you do kind of get trapped into a system. And if you race out and buy, say, a really nice set of DJI goggles, or you jump in on HD0, or you jump on the new Dominator system, you may go out and fly and nobody else can see what you see, and you may not be able to see what your friends are seeing, which is a really nice part of the social aspect of flying FPV. So yeah, lesson number 5, put off your goggle purchase, and when you do go to purchase, make sure you kind of understand the pros and cons of each type of goggle and each style of video transmission. For me, I chose both analog and DJI. For me, the DJI system works really well when I'm doing cinematic stuff, as well as when I travel. It allows me to carry less gear with me, so I can basically have one remote, one set of goggles on quads that have very simplified parts, and it allows me to carry less spares as well. So that's pretty important for me, but that's my specific use case. This is why, again, get familiar with FPV before really jumping whole hog into your goggle purchase and some of the bigger parts of the hobby, because you don't want to buy something, realize, oh, I wish I had this, and then feel like you have to go out and make a purchase again. The next lesson or piece of advice I would give to somebody new to FPV is start with a Cinewhoop. This may sound weird because everybody's like, oh, I want to get that sweet 5-inch freestyle drone and just rip and send it. But when you actually get out to the flying field, those freestyle drones are big, they're heavy. While they are durable, that weight still behaves with the laws of physics. So if you hit something hard, all of that weight transitions into energy, which destroys things. With the Cinewhoop, yes, it is still big, yes, it is still heavy, but because it's ducted, because it's not as quick, because it's not as nimble, it really teaches you how to fly, and it is a really good kind of introductory drone into the hobby. What I started on was the Diatone Taycan 3. It is big, it's kind of clumsy. I would not recommend that one specifically because Cinewhoops have really come a decent way since then. I personally would recommend now either looking at something like a slammed Shen Drone Squirt, which I really do like. It's small, fairly nimble, and not crazy expensive, or something like a Cinema. An iFlight Pro Tech is a great shout for kind of a first drone or a Cinewhoop. Anything kind of in that vague area is a good way to start out, because the last little piece of that too is most of these are ducted. So when you hit stuff, you'll bounce off a little easier. You won't shred props. You probably won't damage or destroy whatever you hit. And God forbid if you hit yourself, you're not running into yourself with a open-bladed, fast-spinning, fast-moving blender. So I would start out, as anybody getting into the hobby and getting their first drone to fly outside, start with a Cinewhoop. It'll be useful pretty much always. And even if you get it and you hate flying the Cinewhoop, never use it after you get a big freestyle drone. Sell it on to somebody else, give it to a friend getting into the hobby. They pretty much hold their value well enough, or you can strip out those parts from a Cinewhoop and build a 3.5-inch freestyle drone, which is another part of the things I've learned in the last year. I'm gonna call it part of highlight, part of lesson learned. 5-inch freestyle drones aren't everything. They're a great drone to have. Great for longer distance, excellent for freestyle. They have a good weight for those kind of pitch tricks like power loops and split S's and Matty flips, but they're big, they're loud, they're heavy, and they're just kind of a little bit intimidating. If you're mostly flying inside of parks that are smaller, if you don't have a huge amount of area to fly in, if you're flying in your backyard and you don't have infinite amounts of space, definitely take a second look at 3 and 3.5 inch freestyle drones. They're still quick, they can still carry a lightweight or stripped out action camera. They are powerful, they are quiet, and they are not crazy intimidating. So they're great pieces of kit to have in your arsenal as that additional drone, especially if you're flying parks or if you don't have a ton of space to fly in. So I highly recommend 3.5 inch drones, in addition maybe to a 5 inch drone or in lieu of a 5 inch drone, depending on where you fly. Same goes with like the longer range stuff. Obviously, if you've got the space for a big drone, a long range drone, or you want to try flying long range, you really have to go to that bigger size. You need something that's more stable, more power efficient, bigger props. And that's really why I've recently started flying a 7 inch AOS 7 from Chris Rosser. I love that drone to death, but it's not something I would recommend to a beginner, and something really that down the line, if you're interested in trying and you want to go for longer range flights, definitely check out the bigger size. But 3.5 I think is still my favorite little sweet spot for like a daily ripper. And my last lesson for this video is going to be around sending it, because at the end of the day, one of the biggest impediments for FPV, I feel like, is that intimidation factor. And just like with YouTube, there's a bug on the camera, just like with YouTube, just like with FPV, just like with anything else, one of the best things you can do is, if you're interested in it, try it. And this even goes to when you're learning some of the tricks with FPV. But if you're interested, go out, get a remote, get a sim, try it. It's not crazy expensive. Honestly, you can get into it for about the same price in total as a standard Xbox or PlayStation game. So it's not crazy expensive. It's not cheap either. And if you like it, progress from there. Once you're into FPV and you're starting to learn tricks, or say you're going from angle mode to acro mode, the best thing you can do is try it. Flip the switch, give it a whirl. Obviously, don't go way outside your comfort zone and after watching this video be like, I want to try FPV, go out and buy a crazy expensive radio video system and then just flip it straight into acro mode and take off. It won't go well. Well, you never want to jump completely outside your limits. You do want to push yourself, and learning to kind of have that mentality of, I think I got this, I'm gonna give it a try, and then really commit and give it a try is essential to FPV. The first time I did a power loop, honestly, even the first time I flipped it into manual mode, I was nervous. I was a little scared. I didn't know how it was gonna go. I didn't know if I was gonna flip it into acro mode and then just drive it into the ground. I was nervous, as you should be when you're trying anything new. And this continues all the way through FPV, and the more comfortable you get with it, the better your experience with this hobby is going to be. It also helps coming from for anybody who has a background in any kind of action sports, whether it's skateboarding, snowboarding, mountain biking. For me, it's BMX and mountain biking. You have that same mentality. You're like, okay, I'm looking at this new jump or new drop. I think I got this. I feel good about it. I'm gonna give it a go. And you do that full commit. If you're going for a gap that has a lot of consequence, like that right there, which I have missed before, you don't want to kind of come up unsure on it. When you're ready to try it, you need to focus on, I'm going through that gap, pick your line, look where you're going, don't focus on what you can hit, and go through it. You need to have that commitment and that focus, and it will bring you through. If you're a little wishy-washy or you're not completely committed to doing the trick, you definitely will run into issues, and that's how you have crashes and it doesn't go well. So it's something that you kind of just need to think about when you're flying, and just get comfortable with it. You don't need to be completely comfortable every time you try something, but you need to be confident that you have the skill set too. And that's, again, with learning, that's with anything else. That's just something I've kind of become accustomed to with flying FPV. Over the past year, FPV has been one of my absolute favorite hobbies that I've ever been a part of. The community is excellent. Even though there are some controversies, there is some drama like with anything else, there are generally good people in this hobby. It's still small, it's still early days, and the community and camaraderie of everybody is so good. And I would highly recommend, even if you don't want to fly drones at all, join some of the Discords, watch some of the other creators' videos, engage with this community. It is excellent, and I am so blessed to be a part of it and enjoy this wonderful hobby. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video, and hopefully you've enjoyed all the FPV content so far. Definitely more of it coming down the line, and more flights coming down the line, because I'm not stopping. I want to continue, I want to progress, I want to grow both my skill level and expertise inside this FPV drone hobby. So I would like to thank everybody who's helped me out, everybody in the community that I've engaged with. Thank you all for joining me on this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Please leave a comment below on if you've tried FPV, or if you're interested in trying FPV. Connect with people. Leave your recommendations for stuff that you've tried, or stuff you've learned over your journey in FPV. And as always, please subscribe to the channel. It helps me grow. Like the video, it helps me do better in the algorithm. There are affiliate links below for the stuff that I use. So if you're interested in picking up some of the same gear, links are below. Those affiliate links do give me a small kickback, sometimes, not always, and it helps me build and grow this channel. So again, thank you for your support. Thank you for watching this video. I will catch you all in the next one. Bye.